Hi guys, this is a continuation of my story from my previous video that I shared yesterday about how I got scammed out of $5,000 US living in China. The first scam was from a local Chinese who didn't pay my boyfriend and I for 3 months of teaching combined. In this situation, you would think you would never get scammed again, you would learn from your mistakes, but unfortunately, history repeated itself in a much more vulgar way, and this time by a foreigner, not a local Chinese. This time, my boyfriend had found the job for both of us, again, a school to work together, but this time it was a foreigner, and it was a foreigner who was actually a friend of a friend. He came highly recommended for being a stand-up guy. So we thought, great, somebody that we can connect well with and trust, probably gone through somewhat similar experiences as us, as he's lived in China for quite some time. The unfortunate reality is that many people who have worked in the teaching industry in China, more training centers as far as I'm concerned, have gone through somewhat similar experiences. According to the China Foreign Teachers Union, at least 1/3 of all foreign teachers in China have been cheated by their schools. Things started out great. Amazing, actually. We connected really well. I felt like we were friends. We even went camping with him and his wife. We thought it was perfect. But after that first month of probation, things just got weird. The salary we were promised was unfulfilled. They were asking for teaching materials and lesson plans to be sent in all typed up and pretty. That was not in our contract, and wanting us to do it outside of our working hours, so unpaid. We were also getting accused of starting our classes late when it was actually the fault of the kids and the owner not enforcing class times. And some other things I don't want to bore you with. The main thing to take away is things became uncomfortable. Actually, on laowaicareer.com, the leading platform for international talent searching professional jobs in China, talked about this very issue, where they said schools in China commonly request their teachers to create personalized lesson plans or prepare lesson plans during the probation period. When the probation period ends, they terminate your contract and then rebrand all the proprietary material you produced under their own names and give it to their Chinese teachers, as it's roughly 100 RMB per hour more costly to hire a foreign English teacher than a local. Although our probation period had already ended, there was nothing written in the contract or ever previously discussed about needing to provide such materials. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was almost encouraged not to prepare anything and to essentially improv from the books. As I started to get noticed on YouTube, I was invited to Beijing with my friend Jordan to collaborate on a project with Career China. They really loved my work that they invited me back, this time to Nanjing, where I started to create content for their channel. I absolutely loved it. This is what I'm passionate about. It's creating video content. At one point, they even offered me a full-time position working with a fellow YouTuber, Colin a Broadcast, who's been on this channel before, and we would be working together creating videos. The only downside, it was kind of not too high of a salary, definitely significantly lower than teaching, but I told myself, you know, I've already learned once the hard way, don't make decisions based around money. I decided to send in my resignation to the school. This is when things went south. A few weeks later, after I had already left, my boyfriend's still working at the school. It was payday. My boyfriend received his paycheck, and to my surprise, I didn't. Now, I don't want to disclose actual names, so let's call this foreigner Clyde, like Bonnie and Clyde. I sent him a message and was basically like, hey, you know, I didn't receive my paycheck. I had this many hours. You know, maybe you forgot because I don't work there anymore. It's totally fine. No answer. I called. No answer. I send another message. The response I got was pretty shocking. We were utterly shocked when you quit midterm and broke the contract, but now even more gobsmacked that you expect us to pay for the inconvenience and damages you caused us. The contract clearly shows and signed by both of us that 1 month notice is required from both parties, otherwise penalties must be paid. So I responded with a picture of the contract. It doesn't say anything in the contract about not getting paid for breaking the term. As you made very clear to both Evan and I, the extra 25 RMB per hour that is withheld each pay period is what protects you, the first party, in the case of a terminated contract, not my full salary. I do not in any way expect the withheld 25 per hour portion of my salary. I'm sorry that I had to tender my notice, but I left you with options for my classes to be covered until you were able to find a replacement teacher. And clearly, it was not as much of an inconvenience and not many damages were caused, as you were not even needing to take advantage of the options I left you with until you found a new teacher. Clyde's response: we didn't receive any written notice saying you will leave after a month. We don't recognize text message as a resignation letter. So far, you just walked out. You can imagine how many messages I sent after the fact, basically saying that there's nothing in the contract that says text is not considered written message. I mean, we did everything over text. We talked about hours, schedule, salary, everything. So for this not to be considered written confirmation or written text, complete bullshit. Now, I've had a lot of jobs in my life and quit all of them one time or another. Obviously, I wouldn't be here. Never in my life have I quit a job and then not been paid for that last month. Even if I quit that very day, I would be paid for all of the hours I worked. Nobody works for free. What foreigners end up doing, which I was aware of at the time, is that they will quit on the day they receive their paycheck to avoid this happening. Stupid, over-trusting me thought, I didn't want to do this to this guy. He's my friend. I want to be honest and upfront with him and tell him this is me quitting. This is me resigning. I had no idea that meant, well, then you're never going to get paid. I tried to get personal with him. I tried to tell him, my financial situation and how I was really counting on this money. And I just went through this with the first scam, which he knew all about. This was Clyde's response. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I burst out crying when I read that message. Never in my life have I been treated so poorly. I was in so much shock. I couldn't even believe that this happened again. I felt so bad about myself. I was so embarrassed. I felt so stupid. Like, I came here to pay off my student loan debt, not accumulate more. And while this is happening, I'm also trying to enjoy being in China and all the wonderful experiences I'm having while having to deal with this. In a rush of anger, I did something that I thoroughly regret. I knew that he was running his school illegally because even though he was married to a Chinese wife, that doesn't mean that he obtains her citizenship rights or the rights to his business. In fact, dual citizenship is not even allowed in China. Article 3 of the China nationality law holds that the People's Republic of China does not recognize dual nationality for any Chinese national. Article 9 of the law declares that any Chinese national who has settled abroad and who has been naturalized as a foreign national or has acquired foreign nationality of his own free will shall automatically lose Chinese nationality. There are certain visas you can obtain to be running a business, but I happen to know what visa he was on, and it was not the correct one. So I decided to threaten and get the police involved. And this is why they teach you that expression in school. Don't play fire with fire because you will get burned. Clyde said, "Good try. In this way, you'll never be able to come back to China. Maybe you can't even leave. Remember, we have your passport details. And police also likes juicy stories about American spies." Screenshot of my YouTube channel. When he sent that screenshot of my YouTube channel, I nearly had a panic attack. I just saw all of the years of hard work I had put into it just thrown in the garbage, completely destroyed. I felt like in the span of a few minutes, I had lost everything. So I decided right then and there, no amount of money was worth losing what I had created. I sent him this response. "You know what? This isn't worth my time. This is really shady and dishonest of you. Not going to put any more of my time into pursuing this." He replied, "I seriously suggest you'll keep a low profile in the remaining days of your stay in China. I wish no bad to anyone." After all these messages, of course, my boyfriend stepped in. He was still teaching at the school, and he tried to talk to him about me. And Clyde goes, "If you want to talk about Poppy, or if you want Poppy to come in and have a meeting with me, it's going to cost you 1,000 RMB per hour to talk to me. Otherwise, just come in and teach." Of course, my boyfriend quit right then and there, but in result was also not paid for a month's work. After all of this, I just felt very defeated, and all I wanted to do was go home, so I went back to the States to visit friends and family. But when I was in the States, I just kind of felt like I failed China. I didn't want this experience to represent all of China because not everybody in China is bad. There are more good people than there are bad. So I came back to China with a new mindset and a clear head, ready to experience it the right way, and you know what? It worked. Now 100% focused on my channel and traveling, I finally experienced that different side of China, the China that I shared in all of my videos, the China that gave me that new life-changing experience. And if anything, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, at least I'm gonna tell myself to feel better, that these scams happened because it pushed me to the direction that I wanna go, which isn't teaching. While I didn't and still don't really make that much money off of this channel, it's something that I love to do. I love creating content, and even if it's way less than the teacher's salary, it's a hell of a lot more worth it than what I was doing. Ever since that first scam in the first few months of living in China, I wanted to share this story, but I felt like it was more for revenge. I wanted to post the thumbnail as the picture of the foreigner and include shots of the schools, and I didn't want to stoop down to their level. I didn't want to become them. But I also knew I eventually wanted to share this story if it could help at least one person notice those red flags and not make the same mistake. And if it can also demonstrate that even foreigners are willing to scam you, so don't blame China. Provincial public security bureaus can fine schools 10,000 RMB, about $1,600 for each illegal foreign employee, and reserve the right to confiscate any profits earned from illegal workers. The foreigner obviously risking going to jail or deported. If schools or agencies do hire illegally, Dan Harris, an expert in Chinese law, told us they decrease costs by as much as 40% by avoiding taxes and benefit payments. So my takeaway advice from all of this is, 1, get your visa and paperwork done before you enter the country. It's a lot harder to change and switch once you're here. 2, if you do come here without doing that, make sure that you have all the paperwork and visas and everything processed before you start training. No exceptions. Don't let them talk you into anything else. They are lying. This is the law. You need to follow it. In fact, I'll put a link to an article in the description of this video about Irish teachers who recently were arrested who had work visas but also worked for a private school and may or may not have known that that's not allowed. Your work visa is tied to a specific job and a specific location. You can't be working between 2 different jobs. It's not allowed. Something that I definitely would not have known before coming. Tip number 3. Come to China with a good amount of savings in your bank account because 1, in case things go wrong, and 2, because when you start working for a company, at least for teaching, you don't get paid until the 6th week of working there. When you start your term, you get paid every month on the 2nd week, so you don't get paid that first month. So you need to factor in the amount of time of not being paid. Tip number 4, research and pick schools that have good ratings by fellow teachers and reach out to those teachers and ask them. You don't want to find out that the school is a scam or that it's really shitty and horrible and all these people really left, or maybe they're lying to you about something. I don't know. The only school that I know is reliable is First Leap. That's because I've worked with them with their sister company, Career China. So I'll put a link in the description of this video. You can check it out if you want. I really don't care if you do or you don't. What I do care is if you get scammed, and I don't want you to get scammed like I did. I really hope that this video does a lot more good than harm because I really just want to stop this process of people getting scammed, and I don't want people to fear coming to China, but just be aware that this stuff happens and know what to do if it happens. And hopefully if you watch this video, it won't happen to you because China is still a lovely country and there's so much cool culture and history and places to explore. It's definitely worth coming here. It's definitely worth teaching here. Just do it the right way. If this does happen to you, you know, learn from your experiences, but you will be okay. If this already happened to you, don't let it interfere with your feelings about China. It's not China's fault. It's your fault. It was your decision. This is how you stay positive. This is how I stay positive. This is how I've been so positive about China because I'm not going to let these 2 people represent China. They don't. There are plenty of other good people here, and you know, they're just bad eggs. So with that, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with people so that they don't make the same mistakes and that they're aware of these scams. Please leave a comment and share with me, you know, what are your good experiences in China or your negative ones? How has China changed you, or what would you like to see in China? I still want to come back to China. I still really want to visit places, specifically Sanya and Yunnan, probably being at the top of the list. So let's make it happen, and I'll see you next time. Bye.